My name is Chris Howell, and I am a father, I'm a husband, and I'm a Dallas native, born and raised here in Dallas, and particularly West Dallas is where I grew up. And many times folks say, who are you? I like to describe myself as an encourager. I strive to give folks encouragement because I know what it was like at a point in my life when I didn't have the encouragement. I was in a real dark place. And I set out on the road to try to find inspiration and encouragement in any way that I could, whether it was picking up a book or going into the library and trying to find something on it. And I did find it. And it was then those pieces that really helped me to discover who it is that I am and to feel better about myself because, of course, this dark skin that I have, kids always make fun of me because of my dark skin. And it really just made me really feel bad about myself. So one of the things we always do now with Chris Howell Communications or anything that I'm involved with, it's trying to encourage folks to try to help them to be better. As it relates to In the Huddle, we're doing this meeting because we really feel like men at this point, while we applaud everything that's going on with the women, we really feel like if we don't pull men together and empower men just as much as women are being empowered, there's going to be this disconnect. They're sitting at the dinner table and she's talking about a $200,000 deal and he's sitting up talking about $50 that somebody owes him from a year ago. And it's going to create a disconnect, and we don't want that in our relationship. So we're really trying to empower men, not to compete with women, but we're trying to encourage and empower men so that they can be equally joined together and move forward as a power couple, that term that we like to use so much today. You can't be a power couple if she's the only one encouraged and inspired.
Goodness.
Okay. Good. Hello, I'm Benny Franklin, devoted husband of 35 years, father of 2, grandfather of 4, a father figure to a host of nieces and nephews, and an extremely happy person, somebody whose life definitely works. And because of that, I believe in, and I'm committed to lifestyle evangelism because I know somebody has identified me as somebody they want to emulate and somebody that they want to pattern their life afterwards. And so because of that, then I have to make sure that I'm responsible with that. So I'm always very conscious of how I connect with people because I have a motto that you win with people. I'm part of the John Maxwell group. That's our motto is you win with people. So the fact that if you know that it's going to take people to help you be successful, then it you should be encouraged that you need to have some people skills to help you along with that. Because when God comes in your life, I tell Chris all the time, we need to take these Houdini expectations off of God because when he's going to send something in your life, he's going to send it through a way of some person or another. He's going to send a Chris Howell, or he's going to send an Oscar, or he's going to send a commissioner or a Johnny Mack to come in and give you a word or to assist you along and help you through a situation. That's how it works. So if that being the case, then make yourself available to people.
Who is Oscar Hawkins? Oscar Hawkins is one who knows what it's like to be intimidated, who lacks confidence and who knows what it's like to go into the grave, but who also knows what it's like to get up, to stand on your feet and learn how to hustle and learn what's inside of you is great. Oscar Hawk is one who knows how to connect with so many people because so many people realize that about themselves. Oscar Hawk is one who loves his city. Man, I love the city of Dallas so much. I love giving back. I love connecting with so many foundations. One in particular is the Chris Howell Foundation. Being in settings like this, Oscar Hawk most and foremost is a father. My greatest goal in life is to be a grandfather. I love the whole aspect of fatherhood and starting a powerful generation, and that's what I'm here to do. Oscar Hawk is one in the community who loves acting. One of the projects that I'm working on is Colleagues. You can find it on YouTube and Instagram. It's a mini-series that's about to explode. Oscar Hawk is just one who loves life, one who loves waking up and putting the smiles on so many people's faces, no matter who you are. Oscar Hawk is a culturally diversified man who teaches that greatness is not how much you have in your bank account, but how diversified you are. So that's who I am, and that's what I love.
Why you laughing? This is Ed Gray. Everybody start laughing, man.
It's your imagination, Ed. Come on, Ed. Go with it, man.
I'm Ed Gray. I am a husband, a father. I'm a brother. And I am one of the people who is a servant leader for the community. And when we talk about the community, we're talking about the broader-based community, a community that's not based upon a geographical area, but based upon a spiritual area. This is what we're about today. here today as we are in the huddle. We want to expand that huddle to you, to bring you in that huddle as well. We can all turn to each other instead of on each other. And this is what my life has been about. It's not been about inspiring others, but it's about being in the game. And that's the reason why I'm glad I'm here with these brothers in the huddle.
Well, guys, wow. You know, they say when you're the sharpest tool in the shed, you need to find another shed, because iron sharpens iron. And if you're so sharp that you're the sharpest there, then you're going to get dulled, because all the others are going to be trying to get your shine, trying to get that razor edge. The greatest accomplishment of my life is that I'm the father of 3 awesome young ladies. Each one of them has gone out into the world and accomplished an aspect of life that I've always aspired to. One is an entrepreneur, one is a Navy veteran, and one is a corporate manager. And I look at all 3 of them, and I can go to bed at night knowing that I poured into them, because the easy thing for me to do was to walk away from that responsibility, to not be accountable. But instead, I said, no man's going to raise my children. And I wanted to pour into their lives. I wanted to give to them so that they would be able to leverage and go to the level of success that I desired. And there's things that I want to do. There's things that I've accomplished over life that I look back and see that it's of no effect in relation to what I did with raising my young ladies. So with that being said, I'm not the sharpest tool, but I'm sharp enough to know this, that if you get in the huddle, because when you look at the fact that today is July the 2nd, halftime. We've gone through 6 months already of 2018. So now it's halftime. So we're getting in the huddle, and we're making the decision that we want to be a part of your vision. We want to help you to be able to do the things necessary to change your life, to change the score that you have, so that at the end of this year, you can look back and say, I won because I made that subtle adjustment necessary to win.
Good stuff.
That's good.
All right,
That's
thank
good,
you guys.
Johnny.
To the men that are watching online at this time, we're going to make this an interactive conversation. You can chime in right there on Facebook. Tell us exactly who you are. You heard us describe ourselves. You heard us make the point that many times men associate who they are with their identity with what they do. So now we're going to ask you the question, who are you? Introduce yourself right there on Facebook. Ashley will give us the information. We'll be sure to shout you out. Next thing I want to talk about, guys, everyone's asking the questions, where are the men? And everyone is trying to tell men how to be men other than men. You know, women are telling us how to be men, society's telling us how to be men, but I don't think men are talking to men, and men are not setting that example like we once had in our society of showing young boys and other men how to be men. So let's ask the question, what is a man?
What is a man?
Well, somebody that can hold themselves accountable. I think the bigger question to our culture is, are we making men, or are we allowing men to respond to their biology?
Wow.
Now you got to unpack that.
So
And
that's,
people make sure they hear you.
well, that's a great question, because that's why we have to have influencers like you, Chris, like Johnny, Kamish. Is always bringing something powerful to the community, because the men have to have something to model from. And the thing is, we have a lot of distractions. Matter of fact, we're in an era of epic distractions. And so people are looking for quick fixes, especially guys. They don't understand how to work through problems anymore. They want everything instantly. As a matter of fact, people are marketing to that weakness in people, how to make something happen really fast and easy and quick. And because of that, we become so susceptible and reliable to that we spend all our time trying to find shortcuts. Trying to shortcut our way to solve a problem, when we know everything is about a process. So now what's happened is we've started growth. And so now we've got men giving up easily, breaking down easily, getting overwhelmed with anxiety. And you got the older brothers looking at these young boys like, what are y'all crying about? What are all this stressing about?
Part of life.
What's going on? And we have to be empathetic, because we had our own issues coming up, but today we were never faced or bombarded with the social media access to these men that's happening today. So now you got everybody in everybody's ear. That's why we have to stay strong, tighten our culture up. And for me, I'm a religious guy, so that's why I think it's important that we bring Christ in culture. Right. And so, because that's going to actually Christ and culture is important because what happens is that it keeps us understanding it keeps our conscience active. Mm-hmm. And the reason why it's important to keep our conscience active is because if we don't, then we become numb to our decisions, especially bad decisions. Okay. All right, but if we can stay, if we can still have conviction, which is different than remorse. You know, conviction happens before the act, remorse happens after the act, okay. And so that's why we have to have this culture stabilized. So before the act, we can be convicted, and that'll maybe deter the act.
Okay, good stuff. Ed, I want to come to you and let you weigh in on that when we come back in just a moment.
Guys, dudes, fellas, brothers, partners, and, well, men, I want you to join me for In the Huddle with Chris Howell, Saturday, August 25th, as we come together to discuss a male's response to the Me Too movement, financial literacy from a male perspective, a man in his health, a man in his coach, and fatherhood. It's all happening August 25th, 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. at the Renaissance Hotel in Dallas. Admission is $25, and that includes a 3-course plated meal. My guests include Benny Mr. Make It Happen Franklin, Johnny Magnificent Mac, and a host of others. Seating is limited, so log on to Eventbrite or go to inthehuddle.info to register today.
All right, we're back from our commercial break. We're back on camera here. And Ed Gray, we're coming to you. The question was, what is a man?
Oh, good, because I was hoping you didn't ask me that question about why men cheat.
Well, that's going to come in. Since you brought it up, let's go ahead.
What is a man? A man is a person who takes care of his obligations, take care of his family. That's what a man does. A man is, when I was coming up, a man was not supposed to show emotion. But as a father of 4 children, you cannot help but not show emotion when you look at your children as they're growing up, primarily, as I stated before, all of my daughters and everything, and seeing the pain that comes through. A man's value is really tied down to what he's able to produce, and produces much more than bringing home a paycheck. Mm-hmm. Produce is also being a person of upstanding moral caliber, a person that the father sets the example of whether or not the daughter picks a good man herself. Mm. And also it sets the example of how young men treat women. Mm. And this is the reason why it's a difference between being a male and being a man. Mm.
Good stuff.
I'd like to have a shot at that.
Go ahead, Oscar. Yes, sir. Young millennial man. Go ahead.
Young millennial man. Yeah.
When you ask the question, I almost in my mind ask myself, what would I describe a man to my 11-year-old son? Mm-hmm. And I think that a lot of times what we struggle with as men is consistency. Mm. I think being a man is finding something in life that you're committed to and that you can't allow anything to sway you from, regardless of what it is, whether it's religion or whatever it is. You find something in life that you commit yourself to, and you stay dedicated and you stay committed, regardless if you're the only one in the fight. My son, right now, I'm giving him all of the tools necessary for him to make the right decisions, to find out what it is, his niche in life. But once he find that, it's up to me to let him go and let him find his consistency. Yeah. Whether it's him starting a family, a job, or starting a movement, whatever it is, which I know it's going to be great. But to me, being a man is being consistent.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right, and you've alluded to it, and Benny has said it too. I think one of the challenges that we are faced with today is that men are far too easily pleased. Mm. And what I mean by that is guys will go out, they'll get a good job, they'll marry the woman of their dreams, they'll get a home, they're good, they're stable financially, and they're like, hey, that's it, I'm done. I've achieved everything I'm supposed to achieve in life. And that's not the case. Right. Where in the days of old, our grandfathers and great-grandfathers, they thought about generations after the next generation. Yes. They were like, no, I'm going to build something that my great-great-grandkids are going to be living on.
Yes.
So that's biblical.
So they pursued their life's passion, and like you said, they stayed consistent with it. But to guys today, it's almost like we don't have a vision, we don't have a life's purpose, we don't have a life's mission in most cases. Now, I hate to use generalities. I know that we're talking in general, because there are a lot of guys who do. Every guy at this table understands his life's mission, and there are other guys out there who do as well. But I think there are far too many men today who do not. And that's one of the things that we're trying to change. We're really trying to help men who may have lost their way, who may have gotten distracted, who may have made a mistake, whatever the case may be. You still have a life's mission and purpose that you have, whether you're 40 years old, whether you're 24 years old, or whether you're 64 years old, you can still fulfill your life's mission. It's just a matter of you understanding where you are, admitting where you are, and then seeking out the help that you need. Many times as men, we are more susceptible to having challenges and becoming depressed, even more so than women. But we will not go and seek out the help. So one of the things that we're trying to do within the huddle and having these type of discussions with men is to allow you to understand that, first of all, you're not by yourself.
Right.
If you made a mistake, there's another man out there who's likely made that same mistake. One of the biggest attacks of the enemy is to, first of all, make you think that you're the only one.
Right.
And
By
then
yourself.
what you will do is you'll isolate yourself. And then when you isolate yourself and become the only one, you will likely get beat up because you're by yourself. Normally what we did in high school was we ran with packs to make sure that we didn't get jumped. But when you get out there by yourself, the enemy will jump you. So that's why, again, we're really encouraging men to get into the huddle. Whether it's in this huddle or whether it's your brother across the street, the man in your neighborhood, the man that you work with, we don't have friendships anymore, guys.
Well, friendship is essential to the soul. I'm an Omega man. Right?
Say it, I didn't hear that. Say it one more
That's
time.
too
Friendship
fast.
is essential to the soul. You know, one of the first things we learn is that friendship is the expressible feeling of being safe. With that person, there's no need to weigh thoughts or measure words. With that person, you can think aloud. And the reality is that the two most important words for what is a man is responsibility and accountability. That you take responsibility for your progeny, you take responsibility for your family, your home, your job, your church, your community,
Yourself.
that responsibility, and then there's that aspect of accountability, that you are accountable to another person. Because if you're not accountable to another person, that means that you can run and do whatever you want. Now the question earlier was, who am I? As an author, the very first piece that I wrote was, who am I? I asked the question, who am I? To find the answer, I must try. I put on an act for the whole human race, but I can't see myself face to face. I ask other people, they don't give a damn. So I'm lost as to who I am, but I must find it at any cost. And so we go through life without accountability and without responsibility. And everything that we've said here today has been about those two words, accountability and responsibility.
Yeah. You know, you talked about a friend being someone that you can really just be real with and have
Be
that
real,
conversation with. And there are going to be times when we're going to really disagree with one another. Just Saturday, I was on the phone with this little short joker here.
You disagree with me, man. Just to make it happen.
And I'm driving down the road, I almost pulled my car. That little short joker tried to get up in your face over the phone, man.
Okay, we'll call you out.
But he was telling me something, he was right.
Okay.
He's like, man, Chris, you just need to be quiet about that, man. It's going to happen, man. I'm like, dude, hold up now. Lower your tone a little bit, man.
Hey, take some of that bass out your voice.
This is my friend.
How you take attitude?
Yeah.
So, Ed, talk about this whole friendship thing.
You know, friendship is when you can pick up the phone with somebody you haven't talked to in months and just pick up like the last conversation we had was 15 minutes ago. Okay. Friendship is very hard to find, and also the definition of it is very easy. It's a kindred soul, a kindred spirit. The person that knows your innermost thoughts, feelings, and also your weaknesses. But most of all, won't judge you on those weaknesses or won't attack you on those weaknesses.
Judgment.
And we as black men, you know, we know how we do it. You know, when we pass by somebody, we give them a nod, right? That's like checking somebody. Like, what's up? Okay, are you good? Friend of the phone.
Like y'all did me when I first
That's
got
right.
yeah.
But you
passed the test.
All right, I appreciate it.
You did. You passed the test.
Oscar, I want to come to you. I mean, we
Okay.
talked about what a friend is, but why do you think it is challenging for men to really have true friends?
Because we compete with each other too
All
much.
the time. Competition. All the time.
But when you're confident in who you are, you don't need to compete because you're the best at being you.
That's what I was doing.
Wow. You
That's
got to say
it.
that again because they probably didn't hear your face.
That's good.
I said we compete as men. We compete as men, but when you're confident in who you are, you don't need to compete because you're the best at being you. I can support every man at this table because they're not in my lane. They're in their own lane, and I can support them and say, come on, man, let's go. and we can all be successful.
So you only compete against who? Yourself?
Wow. There's no competition.
There's no
But
competition.
There's no
What
competition.
happens if somebody try to get in your lane?
Then they lose because I'm the best at being me.
Okay.
And if I try to beat them, then I'm gonna lose because they're the best at being them.
No, that's a class, that's a conference.
Oh, we can start it.
Johnny will turn anything into a conference.
We can start it. We'll talk offline.
Now, imitation of others.
Any questions
Imitation
from
of
Facebook
others
at
is
this point?
limitation of self.
Absolutely.
Imitation of others is limitation of self.
Questions.
Oh, I love it.
Okay. Can we get some feedback, some comments? Have we said
Come on with
something
the
that sparked
questions.
a question, a thought? While we wait for those questions from Facebook, I do want to get into while we always talk a lot about what men are not doing and what's wrong with men, but I think men are really stepping up to the plate today as it relates to being fathers. Men are really stepping up to the plate in terms of being a co-laborer in their home. And sharing the responsibilities in the home. So let's talk about the fact that, I guess, fathers. There are so many men today, and we hardly ever hear the fact of men who are the single parent. So we have to applaud those brothers who are stepping up and saying, hey, I'm going to be in the life of my child no matter what. What are you guys' thoughts on that?
Whew. Let y'all go with that one.
I'm gonna jump right in.
Come on,
there.
Benny, that's what you think.
Benny, that's you.
No, I mean, I think you're exactly right. We have to give a shout out, but it's a lot. You know what? It's more going on right than there's more going on good.
Yeah.
As a matter of fact, there is abundance available to us, but we have to make sure that we're really careful not to fall trap into the media agenda, which is to pull out and expose us to extremeness that they can get a reaction out of us. But there's more going on today. There's more opportunities today than there have ever been. We're this close to a cure for cancer. As a matter of fact, the life expectancy is growing at such a rapid rate that they don't even know what they're going to do 10 years from now because we're not producing enough babies to sustain society. So there are a lot of things going on. They're this close to cleaning up water. There's only 3% of the water that's drinkable in the world, and we're 97% water. And so we're this close to getting, conquering that. I mean, so there are a lot of things that are happening really well, but there's an agenda to expose us to think that there's so much going wrong that's what we're reacting to. And so let's narrow that down. There are a lot of guys getting things right.
Yeah.
There are still a lot of good men out there, and the men are still looking for models. This is why we have to have Chris Howell. We have to have the commish. Johnny Mack is one of my mentors. Because they're looking for people are trying to look for people that to them their life works. And Johnny Mack knows that's my saying. Make sure that your life works. Make sure your life works because people are watching you and they're looking for clues to make their life work.
Right.
And so, if you want your life to work for men, there are 4 things that I tell men all the time. You can get your life to work. And he touched on one of them. And this defines men: maturity, decisiveness, consistency, and strength. Those 4 things.
Give it to him again.
Consistency, maturity, decisiveness, consistency, and strength. Those are the 4 expectations that people have on men. As a matter of fact, those are the 4 things that women want in a man.
Hello.
Maturity, decisiveness, consistency, and strength.
Money, a good car.
No. Maturity, decisiveness. You want somebody to mature. What's maturity?
We got a question.
Yeah.
Then break it down.
We have a comment. We're only highlighted for our failures as black men and black fathers. I do not know one deadbeat dad personally. We are very active in the everyday of our families.
That's good stuff. Who's that coming from?
That's from Charles Redmond.
All right, Charles.
All right,
Thanks for chiming in.
Redmond, Chuck.
And you're absolutely right. That's what Benny talked
That's
about.
just
the fact
made my
that
point.
there are so many things that are going right and so many things that men are doing right. Those things are just normally not highlighted.
It's getting obscured.
Yeah, that's why we want to make sure
By
we
negative
do
news.
highlight.
Fake news.
Fake news.
Fake news.
Yeah,
fake news.
That's all it is. Every time.
And everybody else, be sure to chime in as well. So great. We like the feedback. Continue to chime in.
So basically, what he's saying is that we need to change the narrative so that the narrative becomes what we want it to be instead of what the fake news and society or
Culture.
a culture decides it. We get to make that decision, and as men and as fathers, I think the question earlier was, what was the deciding factor for you staying there, being a father, when it was very easy to walk away, let the government raise the kids, let the grandmama raise the kids? And I looked at it and I said, no, my children are a direct result of me. I want to make sure that I do everything necessary to pour into their lives so they can scale up and become all that they're possible of being. And so we tell our kids, you can do anything. You can be the best. You can be the president. You can be the resident. You can be the best basketball, football, scholar. You can be whatever you want to be. But when we tell them that, if we don't commit that most important ingredient, T-I-M-E, time, then we're hypocrites. Time is the anti-drug. Time is the difference between whether or not your child is going to be lost in the streets or get into the books and make a difference and be that cure for cancer. Find that answer that everyone is looking for. It means that we have to do some delayed gratification. We have to say, hey, I want to go out and party with the brothers. I want to go shoot some basketball. I want to do this, that, and the other. But it's necessary. It's important. More important that I spend time with my children, spend time in their lives, and pour into them so that the end result is the success that we're looking for.
Yeah. But I think, Johnny, one of the things that's missing in a lot of cases is that men have not been shown that. And not only not shown that, but they really can't find it within themselves to be able to give that sense of direction.
Yes.
So many times, as it is with anything else, we shy away and stay away from those things that we're not good at. So if I don't feel like I have the ability to really be able to speak into my child's life and give them that sense of direction, because I don't have a sense of direction for my own life, then I'm going to run away from that situation. So that's why we really have to make sure that we have that whole iron sharpening iron piece. If you don't have it, seek out a man that can give you that sense of direction to help you to understand how to do it, and then go home and model it. Giving them time is great, but when you're spending that time with them, you also have to have something to say and speak into their lives in a positive way. I am not just a big proponent of saying that a child needs a man at home. I will give myself as an example. I didn't know my dad's name until I was 31 years old. And once I learned my dad's name and learned who he was, I am grateful that my dad was not in my life. Because if my dad had been in my life as the man he was at that time, he would not have been a positive influence in my life. And my life could have turned out a totally different way. I'm a big proponent of having a positive male figure in a child's life. It may not necessarily be the father. It may be an uncle. It may be a guy in the neighborhood. Someone who will take that young man underneath his wing and show him the right way. But it's not just saying someone that needs to be in their life just because he's the biological dad. He may not necessarily be the best positive figure.
How long did it take you to understand that?
It really took me to become an adult. It really did. When I had my first kid at 16 years old, I didn't have a sense of direction. I did know that I needed to remain in the situation. We had our first kid at 16, had our third by the time that we were 18. So it was really just saying, hey, I'm going to dig in, and I'm going to just show up, and I'm going to do the best I possibly can with the situation I've been dealt. And thankfully, God took her by one hand, took me by the other hand, and led us both, and it worked out. Yeah.
Sure did.
If you just tuned in, if you're just tuned in, you're listening to an impromptu, unscripted conversation with men. We just grabbed a couple of guys out of the hotel lobby and said, "Hey, grab your drink." And have a conversation. We don't know who we just grabbed them off the street. We probably would give them another drink, but you see they low, so we didn't even give them another drink. Maybe they're just here for another drink.
So we had a sign saying, "We'll be interviewed for drinks."
Yes.
And if you're just tuning in, make sure you go back and listen to the things that you missed out on, because there's some great information that's available for you.
Great information.
Absolutely.
And we're really just giving you a preview of what's going to happen with our men-only session, August 25th, 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. at this very hotel. We're actually filming this at the Dallas Renaissance Hotel. It's in the Huddle with Chris Howell. But really, all these guys are going to be speaking. I mean, this brother's going to be talking about coaching. We're talking about the fact that if you don't have it within yourself, find somebody who can help you to find it and help you to uncover and discover it. This is what this guy is great at. So he's the coach's coach. So you certainly want to make sure you're here. This guy is Benny Franklin, just in case you don't know.
Mr. Make It Happen.
Mr.
AKA Mr. Make It Happen. That's what I do. I make stuff happen.
We got okay, so everybody has like a nickname. This is Benny, Mr. Make It Happen Franklin. This is Oscar Only Light Skin Hawkins. We're making them up as we go.
He's the only one in here.
This is Ed Wonderful Gray. He goes by Ed. I'm thinking your name.
No, hold on. That's the commish.
The commish.
Let's get it right.
Is it the commish?
Yes.
The Ed Gray?
Yeah, it's Ed
That's the
Gray.
commish.
Commish.
I was trying to do something a
commissioner.
little bit more dramatic than the commish.
No, it's already branded.
All right.
It's the way you say
That's
it.
Ed. That's
Commish.
Ed the commish Gray.
Yeah, that's all.
Yeah, that's
That's Johnny
commish.
Magnificent.
I
Mark.
am magnificent.
Hey.
I'm sorry, I blew up.
We bought him 2 drinks. We bought him 2 drinks. That was our mistake. We won't do that.
No, one.
But no, we're excited to have you with us. But if we're actually fielding your questions as well, we're just having a conversation as it relates to men and what men go through. Someone asked the question earlier, why do men cheat? We're going to slowly get to that question, so we're going to keep you hanging on for just a moment. That's the training that I received. Let's talk about sexual temptation.
Wow.
Because we're in a society today where certainly sexual temptation, we all of us got these little things sitting in our hand. Sexual temptation and pornography is on the rise all throughout the country. When we say men in general, and then we can also say Christian men are struggling with sexual pornography. Let's talk about this struggle and how we as men help young men get a handle on this. Because if you've got grown men struggling with this issue, and you've got a 13, 14-year-old boy who's got this device in his hand, who has access to the world, how does he get his mind around that? Anybody?
You know, the power of sin is the secret. And this is a secret. No one has to know. You've got access to this, and you got personal self-access to it. You got that hidden access to it that nobody knows about. So nobody knows what you're doing with this little bitty device. And so you're able to secret away and have that quiet time so that you can just one-on-one have that little experience. So the power is in the secret. And as long as it's kept secret, then it's able to overwhelm you and overtake you. And pretty soon you're going to find yourself that you're caught up in the circumstance. So that whole issue of secret sin and of sensuality brought on by technology, brought on by a culture that permeates sex, sensuality, skimpy clothes, that whole sexualization of young people, of kids. It catches you up and it catches you away. And before you know it, you're caught up. So the key question is, how do you break away so that you can actually start living the lifestyle of a Christian, of a good man that has moral values, that has standards. You know, as a father, let me just kind of dive in. As a father with 3 daughters, my question is exactly the same. How do we find young men that are not caught up in the pervasiveness of society? So I need y'all to help HBO, help a brother out.
Well, you talked about the technology aspect of it, and you're absolutely right. I love what you talked about in terms of the secret sin. But I will tell you, it's not just technology. I mean, it starts with what's being thrust in our face daily, and I'll probably get criticized for this one, but I'll put it out there. Yesterday, my wife and I went to lunch after church. We're sitting in the restaurant. I sit down at the table, and as I look across from my table, there's a young lady sitting at another table. Man, I mean, if I wasn't so dark, I would be red as this shirt. Because, I mean, it was more than cleavage. I mean, she was out there, and I'm like, man, I don't even feel comfortable. But there was no room for me to get up and turn to the other side of the table. Now, as a grown man, certainly I can shun that off and it doesn't bother me. But again, to a young boy who's sitting in a restaurant who may see something such as that, how does he deal with that? It makes me want to turn red.
I like to ask the question. Just random question. Do y'all feel like we were meant to be a monogamous people?
Got real quiet.
Well, I mean, no, hold on.
That's a trick question in a lot of ways.
No, well, first of all,
Real quiet.
it's not tied to ethnicity.
Absolutely.
We're still human beings.
Right.
All right. When it comes to just the framework of how we operate, how we sin, what we do, how we curse, it doesn't matter if you're black, if you're white, if you're Mexican, if you're Asian. We all struggle with the same issues. Now, what's happening is that our values are being distorted. You know, you've got strippers being promoted. You got porn stars being promoted, and they're being promoted as successful people.
Oh, wow.
So when you have porn stars and when you have strippers and everything being labeled as successful, being put on the cover of magazines as successful,
Becoming the first lady.
you know, well, I'm not gonna touch that.
It is what it is.
But now success is distorted. You know, values are distorted. What it takes to get there is distorted. So now, even to the point that what it takes to attract a man is distorted. And so now there's confusion. And the reason why this is, and I take it back, and I'm like Johnny, I'm a very religious guy. I take it back to this. What the enemy has done is separated us from God, okay? And the more separation that we have from God, the only thing that can fill the space is chaos. So the further we become away from God, the more chaos occupies that space. And I'm telling you, everybody can't manage chaos. And to the point now where chaos can become and look and feel normal.
That's the new normal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Off the chain stuff. This stuff is going on. It's crazy, and there's so much stuff going on crazy that we're not even moved by it anymore.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, you're not even shocked by anything that comes on the news now. Really, you know, you'll be like, "Woo!" But it's not like shocking anymore. Right. Anything can happen. Anybody think that's where we are. And so think about when we can collectively gather ourselves, whether we do that in cultural pacts, whether we do that collectively, however we do it, we need to start gathering our men. We need to start gathering our women and to start pulling them back in place and saying, hey, you know what? Excuse my language, but this shit ain't normal. All right, let's start talking about what's really normal.
Right.
What's really appropriate. You know, if you really want to get a guy, if you really want a man and keep a man, if you really want a husband, then you can't dress like Nicki Minaj. You can't.
What if I like Nicki Minaj, though?
That's what you do like Nicki Minaj.
I mean, I'm going to be honest. What if I like Nicki
But she
Minaj?
not is your wife. You wouldn't marry her. You freak with her.
Yeah.
And that's the issue.
But you're not bringing her home to the mom and dad. You don't marry her.
I would.
No, you wouldn't.
Oh, absolutely.
No, you wouldn't. No, you know what?
absolutely.
You're saying that because the physical aspect of it. But you got to remember. Hold on.
Okay, go ahead.
You gotta remember.
Let him say why you're saying it.
No, I'm gonna let him finish.
Okay.
You know, but I just really, I'm a betting guy.
Oh, you
I ain't
better.
delivered, guys. I ain't quite delivered. I'm very religious, but I ain't quite delivered everything. So I want to put that disclaimer out there.
Hurry up so you get to this point before you forget.
So I'm a betting guy, but I would be willing to bet if you married Nicki Minaj at some point,
You'd rather kick her
you'd
out.
have some remorse, especially when you saw the porn videos.
No.
All right.
Okay,
No,
no,
I'd be absolutely wrong. Because that goes back to one of the things that I said. It's about being consistent and knowing who you are. I'd be more attracted to a woman who knows who she is and stands by it than somebody who's flaky.
Okay.
I'd take the Nicki Minaj over the traditional woman who's in the church and she's kind of on the fence.
While she making money move.
She can make it for me.
So even though her values are not there, but if she's real, that has most value to you.
But values according to who?
Well, according for me, you asking me that?
No, he's asking. Well, no,
No, that's important.
because
No,
you
no.
tell
him, you tell him.
Because
Who is important?
I'm thinking it's a rhetorical question.
Because
But
everybody's
to me,
values
it was.
are different. Everybody value, and the reason I asked the monogamous question is because I don't think that we were meant to be originally monogamous. If you really look at the species that's on this earth, we're the only ones that have sex and feel embarrassed about it. You can put 2 dogs, 2 cats, or 2 any other species right here in front of this table and they won't be embarrassed about it. I think that we were raised, like somewhere along the line, we were taught that we had to be a civilized and anti-barbaric society, and because of that, we had to learn how to be monogamous, how to be wives, how to be husbands, and it's been a process, and we struggle because of it. Do I believe that it's a great thing to be monogamous? Absolutely. Because one of the things that I would teach my kids is that when you're not monogamous, here are the problems that's going to come along with it because of the way society has formed us and has taught us how to be civilized.
All right, so that's a deep rabbit hole. All right, so let me respond to that. That's a very deep rabbit hole. All right, first of all, the thing that when God created us, men, and a man, when he created man, the thing that made us unique, we're spiritual beings. And this is my belief, is that we're tripart beings. We are a spirit being, that's our kinship to God. We have this astronaut suit called a body that helps us comprehend the physical realm, and that's called Earth. All right, but the thing that makes us unique, the thing that makes us unique, is that we have a soul. All right, and so the soul is what separates. Our soul is what the angels envy. Our soul is what separates us from the animals. So you're absolutely correct. Our behavior is supposed to be different from the animals. Now, because we do have animal instincts, then our Creator gave us a rule book. All right, and said, okay, you guys, without these rules and identifying these rules on how you're supposed to conduct yourself, then you are going to be off the chain. You're going to have a lot of chaos. So let me tell you how you're supposed to conduct yourself, and then those rules became religion. All right, so religion is important. Now, a lot of people say, I'm not religious, I'm spiritual. I counter that and say, you should be religious and maybe, do like this on the spiritual side, because religion is the framework that keeps your conscience active. See, God gave you a conscience to help you decipher what's right and wrong. That's the whole point of you having your consciousness, is to decipher without even knowing. You got indigenous species that know right from wrong, and they don't know from wrong. They hadn't even been introduced to the Gospels, but they're being obedient to the gospel because it's been placed in your DNA. So yeah, you are supposed to be. You're supposed to have some rules. That's what religious does. Now, you can take issue with a man's doctrine on how you're supposed to do this and worship and all of that. Take issue with that. But don't take issue with religion, because religion is the framework. Religion is the rule. They're the law to tell you how to conduct yourself, how to be productive, how to be consistent, how to be mature, all right, how to be strong.
But let me say something.
And that's important.
I think you're definitely on the right track, but I guess you have to go back to the real question that he asked, and I really admire that question. His question was, values according to who? So your conviction and his level of conviction are going to be in two separate places.
Well, to me, my values are according to God. He created religion.
But if he don't subscribe to your same God, or
then
religion,
that's fine. I'm not
his
judging
conviction
him.
would be at the same level.
Correct.
So I guess to his point about wanting to take home a Nicki Minaj, you can't tell him that he would be wrong in that.
I'm not saying that he's wrong, but I'm saying his
But you
life
said at
is
some
going
point down
to
the
be
line,
big chaotic.
You said at some point down the line he would want to.
No, I'm telling you. Hey, he's saying it. Yeah, I like Nicki Minaj. I'm digging it and all this.
And Nicki Minaj, we are not talking about you. We're just using you as an example.
No,
And you are not my crush.
Hold on. And I think you're fine as hell, but that's okay.
But you're going to turn 60 at some point.
But hold on.
I want him to finish his point. Let him finish, because you raised a good point. But I want to really hear him out, because you raised the question, values according to who? Finish your point on that.
Okay, basically my point is, so we talk about the guidelines in religion. So which one came first, religion or Adam and Eve? Because a lot of times when
that's easy. Adam and Eve came first.
So Adam and Eve
had to have religion because we were off the chain. He wiped us out with the flood.
So we have to ask ourselves, what were their guidelines if they didn't have religion?
They didn't. That's why he came with religion.
Okay, brother.
Well, they had guidelines, because that's when she ate the fruit, and then that.
And they didn't have choices either.
But to that point.
Let me share this. Let me kind of sprinkle some.
See, that's why In the Huddle is going to be so good.
It's going to be good.
We just giving y'all. We know we got these cameras, but there's no cameras in the Huddle. It's just going to be raw and off the chain.
So let's be realistic. Now, monogamy, having religious values and core values, those are all important and valuable things. But the reality is this: culturally, we find ourselves right now in a very unique space and time. And I'm going to give a brief history lesson, and then I'm just going to throw it out to you guys.
Brief, Johnny. We got to wrap it up.
Okay. So the history is that slavery positioned us where they took and put relationships threw out relationship out the window. So monogamy was not allowed in our culture. So today we find ourselves in a similar situation where incarceration, alternative lifestyles, intercultural relationships has put the available number of men very limited. And so my daughters, I keep going back to my girls because they're important, but my daughters to find a husband. My oldest daughter has been married for 5 years. One of my twins just married a Caucasian guy. Great guy, but the gene pool has been limited. So we find ourselves in a situation where monogamy is questionable because with so many men in prison, so many men undesirable, so many men that have crossed the line, what's available to these young ladies? And their choice is not. And so a question came up. So she says, I'm a wife of a preacher of the gospel, and I'm consistently praying for my husband as he serves the church in the community, in the church where temptation is introduced. Because we find ourselves with the women find so many limited choices. And so they are willing to do things that 50 years ago they wouldn't do. They're willing to share a man. They're willing to go with a married man. They're willing to do things that were taboo or unpopular before. Now, we're saying monogamy, throw it out the window. All the traditional standards are being disregarded. Speak on that.
Me?
Sure.
That's good.
You unpacked it so well. There's not enough to do.
I think the biggest thing when it comes to whether you believe in monogamy or not is to be honest, to be truthful with yourself. There are plenty of men who or women. It's not gender based, but there are plenty of people who get married and still attracted to somebody else. But when we enter into a relationship and we're not honest about our feelings and who we are, that's when all the problems start, and that's when all the if I can go into a relationship and I can be honest about how I feel and who I am, chances of me cheating on you are very slim because I've been honest with you up front.
Well,
But that's one of the things that we don't want to face.
When you say you've been honest, what do you mean? You've been honest in saying that you're going to be with someone else?
No.
Or what?
It's being honest to say that, you know what, there is an attraction from me to the opposite sex or whatever you choose. You know what I'm saying? We go into this illusion and we tell the opposite sex or whoever we're interested in, oh, you're the only one for me, and we lie instead of being honest. But along with that doesn't mean I can't be committed.
Yeah, and it doesn't mean that just because you get married, you're not going to be attracted to the
to other
opposite
people.
sex.
Yeah.
Right.
You're going to still be.
Right.
You're going to be.
But it's the
attracted.
love that you have for that one woman that makes you understand.
Exactly.
That I
Well,
can't
hold on.
go.
There's one other thing too that stops you from going further.
Yeah, so it's not that you don't find them attractive just because you got married and you were honest.
So what stops it, Benny?
Conviction.
Commitment.
No, hold on. Conviction keeps you committed. That's why you have to have conviction. Conviction is the thing that stops you before the act. Remorse is what you feel after the act. So conviction, and here's the thing. Just because you find religion or whatever doesn't mean you're not going to have all these problems. All right, that does not mean. Matter of fact, your problem is going to be amplified because you're going to have all these standards that you think you have to live up to.
Right.
You know, whatever the case may be. But here's the difference with people of faith and people in the world is that we don't solve our problems the same way. That's the only difference. We have the exact same problems. Let me tell you something. I've been married for 35 years, and I can tell you now, me and my wife both, we love each other, but there's been points in our marriage that I can tell you honestly that we've both been attracted or distracted by somebody of the opposite sex. That's just being real. It doesn't mean we cheated on each other or did anything, but yeah, especially you get lulls in the marriage, somebody gives you a little bit of tension, you appreciate that, especially as a man. And as a woman too.
But that doesn't mean
somebody
that you
pays
throw
a
monogamy
little.
out the window.
No.
Exactly.
Hold on. That's conviction keeps you from crossing the line. That's where religion comes in, because it convicts you and say, you know what? No, I don't need to do that.
But my conviction don't always get me.
Okay, well that's okay.
My commitment does.
That's
But my
okay.
conviction
And you know what?
is wavy.
Well, you know what? That's okay. That's okay. It's okay.
So it goes back to what you said a moment ago when you talked about different values, a different set of values. For you, it is that commitment. That is a strong commitment. That's a strong value for you, and you never want to break that commitment.
That's being a man
Ben
to
is
me.
just saying, you know what, my commitment may not be as strong, but you know what, it's that whole conviction piece that good is going on in my head to where I know I'm messing
Well,
up.
my
I'm
conviction,
crossing the line.
my commitment is strong. I just need. I mean, it's time. As time goes on, like anything else, you get signs of wear, and you need to be refurbished. And so, and in the event that happens,
Is that person still hanging on for that question? Go ahead. Go ahead.
and then in the event that happens,
We need to answer that question.
then you have to have something that'll keep you on the straight and narrow. Because you know why? Because especially when somebody identifies you as being successful, then at that particular point you become a mentor. No, not a target. You become a mentor. Let's take a different. Hold on. Let me just say it. You become. No. Hold on. Let me change it.
Johnny, your glass is empty. Your glass is empty. You still got a little
You
bit.
become a mentor. Hold on. It's the same thing. I'm saying something. You become a mentor because now people, whether you realize it or not, are looking at you and they want to be like you.
Yes,
they want their life to work. So they figure you. They don't even know. They see your glory.
something.
They don't know your story, but they just see this something that's shiny and they see this nice shiny object and they know your life works. So they want to pick
Figure out
up.
how to make theirs
Yeah,
work.
they want a little bit of the commish. They want a little bit of my little man right here. They want.
Light-skinned object.
Yeah, right. They want a little bit of Chris Howell because from the outside
light
looking
skin.
in, your life works. So now because of that,
Oscar with the good hair.
then they want to
And the
take
rest of us with no hair.
what you have and they want to apply it to their life. That's why we have to be really responsible with success.
Yes.
We have a question from the Facebook.
So we got to take a stab at that. And Johnny, you spoke up, so let you go first. So the question is, why do men cheat? That
Question.
Yeah, that's
Why do men cheat?
We'll let Johnny handle that.
But,
I'm drinking my water. I can't answer.
Yeah.
nobody wants to answer that question. I'm going to tell you why. Because it's the political football. But the reality is this. When you
Political football.
when you allow yourself to step out of the vow, when you allow yourself to step out of the commitment and the conviction, the responsibility and the accountability that you've accepted, there's a reason. And part of that reason is that the responsibility and the accountability and even the conviction may not have been as real initially as you thought. Or, as Benny said, that over time you wear out and that conviction wears down and you find yourself in an unfamiliar territory. You find yourself needing validation. You find yourself needing to be reminded that you are magnificent, that you're marvelous, because a man needs to know that he's strong, but a woman needs to know that she's supported. And when any of those issues are thrown out the window or not given credence or the credibility that it needs, it's easy to find yourself in a situation that is temptation. Now, walking away from that temptation is difficult when you've entertained it because you feel that you're not being properly vetted, that you're not being properly loved, that you're not being properly accepted, and so you allow yourself to, and you find yourself in a position where you get caught, and when you get caught up, you can stray. So I'm not giving a very good response to this, and
I got it.
probably saying,
I think you were doing great.
I was on the right track. Okay.
You went
Let me
all
get
the way
off of
down
it.
the block and around the street and up the corner
Johnny
again.
Mac.
But let me tell you,
That's J Mac.
Johnny hit on a lot of Johnny hit on a lot of points that I do agree with. I think ultimately the reason that a man will cheat is really due to low self-esteem, low self-love.
Yes.
And someone comes along and gives him a sense of
Man,
value,
you
gives
hit-
him
you
a
hit it
sense
out
of
the park.
appreciation, and then he gravitates to that.
Yeah.
And then
Did I say that?
when we
Yeah, you said that.
you did, you really did. You said a lot of
Yeah,
that.
the first minute.
And then when we gravitate to that, we forget about our commitment, we forget about everything else, and we go to that thing that makes us feel strong. And the other part to that is men like to conquer.
Yep,
We like to
that's
conquer.
it.
So it's that you built that man's self-esteem up. She's built his self-esteem up. No matter how good you're treating him at home, you tell him all the time all those wonderful things. But now here's someone else who's validating him and making him feel appreciated just as much as you do. But it's coming from the outside now. So he looks at it a little bit differently. So he then starts putting his ear there, getting it more and more. And before we know it, many times he's caught up. And he didn't even realize how far it had gotten. And now, ultimately, now he's already committed the act. He doesn't know how to come home and be honest with you because he's committed the act, because he doesn't know how you're going to take that. And many times women will say, all you have to do is just be honest. Just tell me what happened now, we could work it out. Well, many times that's not always the case. He saw his homeboy do that same thing, and it didn't work out that way. I'm not really being funny, but many times he's seen that. So it really ultimately boils down to why anyone will cheat, man or woman. It's low self-worth. Not really understanding who you are, valuing yourself. So you find that appreciation somewhere outside, and then you start gravitating to that. But when you know who you are, when you're confident in who you are, and you're confident in your relationship and committed to your relationship, you don't allow those things to happen. Doesn't mean that you won't be tempted. You will be tempted.
to the grave.
Oscar was a good head.
You talk to Peter.
Man, y'all ain't even listening to me. I'm laying it out there like that, man.
That was good stuff, man.
You heard a word I said.
We did. Everything you said.
You actually hit some great topics.
Who's the young lady who asked the question?
Miss Peter.
Did we give you an answer to your question, or do we need to continue? Because Oscar with the good hair is ready to say something.
What's the question?
Why do men cheat? Well, you man, I want his because he said, "Why are we being monogamous to begin
In the
with?"
first place, he might give you something.
Yeah, he went. Yeah, he.
Well, if I
understand.
remember correctly, you mentioned commitment.
Yes.
So we shouldn't be monogamous, but we choose to be. So why do you cheat after you chose to be?
You see the way she
Actually, they need to see you. Can they see you?
It's really the rabbit hole is really deep, and so there are a lot of different answers to it. It's not really just one blanket answer that's going to answer
True.
the question.
You're
It's really
right,
not.
but I do believe
because
that
it all
this is
depends
also
on the guy. It all depends on the guy. You know, if you've got somebody who's doesn't have a lot going on, his confidence is low, and he's just trying to put his pieces life together, he's really vulnerable. Then you're on the flip side, you got somebody that's really successful and got a lot of stuff going on. They're a magnet, and so it just really comes down to. And then you got somebody like my man here, just a babe magnet anyway. You got some other issues.
Yeah,
But
that's
he
right.
I want to go back to something you just said. You just said something that really made me think about the fact too. The other thing is, once you really have found your life's purpose and mission, it becomes a lot more difficult for you to cheat.
Yes.
And I know we see it all the time. We see quote unquote successful guys who may cheat, but many times those guys may appear to be successful from your point of view, but it's still something lacking within himself that makes him then go out there and do what he's done. But when you are confident in who you are, you have found your life's mission, it becomes a lot more difficult to cheat, whether you male or female. And I really believe that.
But that's good. But one answer that has to be there: if a man cheat, it really doesn't have anything to do with the woman. And so women need to stop beating themselves up about why men cheat, because it doesn't have any. Just like a woman is not responsible for making a man feel a certain way. And you should not let a human being be responsible for how you feel, because when you do, you deitize that person. Okay? Yeah, you do.
That means.
You don't give people power like that. So if a man cheats on you, then it's not anything that you did. It's not. It's not. And you can say that, but I mean, really, women, you shouldn't take that on. They shouldn't take that on. No matter what he did, he made a decision. Now here's the thing: if more women focus on just backing their men up, being a queen, being a support system, and encouraging that man to be all he can be, and then men need to focus on being mature, being decisive, being consistent, and being strong, they don't have to worry about getting their girl in line. They don't. Women will fall in line if they can trust that the man is in line.
Be careful.
The problem is the women get kind of flaky about can they trust this brother, with his decision making, and they just, he said trust me, and they repo in the car, lights off, and he can lighting up the counter and say, well, baby, I got to trust me.
Try to follow somebody who's not leading.
Correct. Or they think the physical sexual act is going to cure everything and just make them dreamy-eyed and forget about the car got repoed and the lights off.
Because that's what they used to tell us back in the day. Man, if you putting it down, boy, you get in line. That's what they told us back in the day, but that didn't work anymore. You got to make sure you put it down, but you got to make sure
it's not sustainable. It'll work for a minute, but it's not sustainable. You got to make sure you're putting it down, but you also got to make sure you have a vision for your family. You have a plan for your family.
Yeah.
Everybody knows what LeBron should have been doing, and everybody knows what Jerry Jones should be doing. Everybody knows someone else's play. But, man, what is your play? What's the play for your family? What's the next play for your children? You got to be able to speak into their lives. Not Jerry Jones and his situation. You got to be able to speak into yours. And when she sees that you're leading, then you put it down. Then you've got something.
Well, hold on. I was about to say, I got to speak up for the put it down brothers. Putting it down is important.
It's extremely important. It's extremely important.
You know,
But
it's just not sustainable when you don't have nothing else working.
I was thinking,
You know, ladies, can I get an
amen?
amen? If you don't have nothing else, you don't have anything else working, then it's not sustainable.
There you go.
You know,
But this is,
We got a question.
Oscar wanted to say something.
Go ahead, Oscar.
I know he's going to talk.
Is on me?
Go ahead.
Okay, let me clear the table real quick because men aren't the only ones that cheat.
You're right.
Thank
You know, let me defend the
Absolutely.
brothers a little bit because I mean we're all human. I mean it happens on both ends. I'm not married, and I commend you guys. You say you've been married for 35,
Yes.
35 years, man. I commend you. 38,
29.
Well, give me
29.
Been together since we were 14. Give me right there.
Been together since they was 14. Now they 102.
Didn't even know ourselves. Still don't.
Me, it's a little different. I am single, but since I've been single, you know what? I've taken time to know who I am, know my value, fall in love with who I am, to the point to where I know that I won't live my life lying.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna wake up lying to somebody. I will give you the blatant truth, whether you respect it or not. I do believe if I'm with somebody, I'm gonna be monogamous. Period. That's
That day.
that goes without saying, because I'm not.
That day.
hey, but you know what? He just, hey,
I'm gonna
everybody,
be
brothers and sisters, y'all pay attention to this because who you are is who you attract.
Ooh.
Go ahead.
And I'm looking for you. But anyway,
That was for you, baby. That was your plug. That was your plug.
Let's get to, are you done?
Boy, you stupid.
We got 5 minutes. Let's wrap it up in about 5 minutes.
All right, we have a question from Cassie Cash. She wants you all to speak about the breakdown of how a relationship affects children.
ooh,
Well, you know
oh
what?
my God.
I kept on saying the entire time I said this. The most important consideration for me as a man was to be a father to my children. And the breakdown, the breakup affects children unequivocally. So you have to make that decision that you want to look into their vision and see what your actions will do to them. So that being said, if it affects the children, should you subvert your own feelings, your own desires, your own wants in order to make sure that the children are taken care of or that the children aren't affected negatively? I just happen to get lucky, so in 38 years, we still together, the children are gone, but the question still remains, is that the most important thing, the children? Should you stay because of the children? Should you be in a loveless or a thankless or a sexless relationship only because of the children?
I will tell you,
hurts.
I think the children definitely are affected by the relationship because, like we talked about earlier, children are looking to us as those role models in terms of how to navigate through their relationships. In the 30 years that my wife and I have been together, things have not always been rosy for us. We've had some tough periods in our life. And of course, our kids had to see that and experience that. But on the other side of that, now some 30 years later, now they get to see how we are, how we've come together and how we've made it through those tough times. So now what what our daughters are telling us and what our son, 25, our kids are 25, 27, 28, now what they're telling us is they want to have a relationship like ours. Mm-hmm. Because it wasn't just a matter of going through a rough patch and then we both throw up our hands and say, that's it, we're out of here. No, it was going through a rough patch and say, we have made a commitment to remain together and we're going to make it through this. And we took each other by the hand and walked through it, and our kids had an opportunity to see that. So I think it can be modeled in a way to where the kids can see a breakdown, but let them see you come out strongly on the other side because of your commitment to one another and your commitment to them. And to let them understand every relationship is not going to be perfect. No relationship is going to be perfect, really. But you can have a tough period and you can still make it through that tough period and you can still remain as a solid family. But I think what kids are seeing too many times today, even, you know, when I've seen someone post something on social media the other day, it's like, if your man is not looking at you like this, then you should just get rid of him. And those type of things are being floated out there. We have to stick to our commitment to one another and really be able to endure tough times because they're going to come. And when they come, allow your kids to see you make it through them. Now, should you not make it and you do end up divorced or whatever the case is, do let your kids understand what happened in that situation and why it didn't work, and how they can prepare themselves to maybe navigate it in their own relationship. But be open with it. So many times we don't communicate. It's a matter of communication.
It's a big matter of communication. And you know what? kids being thrown off today is not exclusive to parents that are being divorced or separated. You know, you got parents that are together that are dealing with, you know, tragedy,
Crazy.
suicide. And it's because what these kids are exposed to. You know, we can't control it. And so we have to work harder at keeping our influences on kids, you know. But the main thing is too, when it gets back to this relationship thing, you know, I can tell you, for me and my wife, 35 years has been tough, but I tell you, the thing that helped us the most, and it was a decision that I made, I took the burden off of my wife of making me happy. And when I relieved her of that
that's
burden,
good.
when I relieved her of that burden, our marriage blossomed. It really did, because no human being can be responsible for making you another human being happy. And so when I took that away from her, it blossomed, and then it allowed me to be able to become more of an influence over her. You know, because now she's not responsible for my happiness.
your happiness.
No.
You're responsible for it.
I'm responsible for it. And until we understand that, that's the key to longevity in a relationship. Is take the burden of happiness off of the spouse or the girlfriend or the boyfriend. You're responsible for making yourself happy. You have to be able to look in the mirror and say, you know what? I'm enough. I'm good enough. I look good enough. I feel good enough. And I'm going to be successful. I'm going to accomplish this.
I'm gonna love that.
I'm going to take it
I'm
down.
gonna love
So
that.
in the words of that great philosopher, Terrell Owens,
Yeah.
who said, "I love me some me,"
Yeah, he's right.
and that was right.
That was
about
right.
that, because
I'm only responsible for my happiness. No one else is. My failures, my successes, all of those. I own all of those. So you can't put anyone else under that type of pressure to make you feel
That's
happy.
pressure.
Yeah.
Because
That's
they're
a
going
lot
to
of-
fail every time.
Yeah.
But you
Nobody
think,
can
you
make
think
sure.
about how it is. You know, I remember as a kid, I said, as soon as I get my driver's license, I'll be so happy. As soon as I meet this girl and marry her, I'll be so happy. As soon as I get this house, I'll be so happy. Every time you do that, there's always something else that
That's
you require
required.
of yourself
Well, the
to
difference-
make you feel happy. So you have to go ahead and internalize it and say it's yourself.
Yeah.
Hey,
Well,
I'm good.
The difference
Well, you
between
gotta-
happiness and joy. Happiness is something; it's an outside experience, but joy comes from the inside, and you're responsible for your joy. When you take responsibility for your joy, happiness comes because. Look here, just being in this environment, I'm happy. I wake up and my mindset, my mentality is happiness. I want to be happy. But if events and circumstances don't happen, I still have joy. And joy is what allows me to get up even when I don't feel like getting up. Joy allows me to love and to stay in that relationship when I don't want to be there. Joy lets me deal with all the things that are negative, but also enjoy all the things that are positive.
That's why that joke is magnificent.
That was
Johnny
good.
Magnificent man.
Johnny Magnificent Mac.
You know what?
Johnny
I
Mac.
Love
hope
it.
that we have shared something tonight that has helped you in some way. And I hope everyone can walk away with one thing. You can dispel that myth that men don't talk. All you have to do is give them drinks and they'll talk.
Amen.
And I have water.
Apple juice.
That's why we're
Apple
shutting it down,
juice.
because these jokers will talk all night. We're going to get kicked out of the hotel here. But I really hope you've taken something away from this. I hope we've helped you. And then, ladies, if you've got a man in your life, men, if you're watching, register for In the Huddle with Chris Howell. It's happening
the Huddle.
August 25th, 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. We'll be right here at this hotel. $25 registration fee. I mean, that $25 is a drop in the bucket. The meal that you're going to be eating is costing us $65, so it's not a money-making thing at all. But it really is an opportunity to bring men together so we can work out some of these issues as we as men facing. And I really believe we have to be careful today because I think there's a huge separation going on between men and women, particularly black men and women. And I'm really concerned about that because, as Benny alluded to earlier, our population is decreasing. And you don't see it happening really with a lot of other races, but it's certainly happening in ours because we're not coming together. We're not coming together and building families and building relationships that's going to help to expand our generations. So we're doing In the Huddle because, again, we want to help men get out of this rut, get out of this depression or whatever it is that's going on to help you to discover your life's purpose, get you back on fire for living again, and go out and live out that purpose. So in the final moments, guys, if each of you will just give us a closing thought, and we'll wrap it up.
I got a coaching tip for the men. If your life depends on your happiness depends on a person, place, or thing, then I want to refer you to the first commandment.
Wow. And he drops the mic.
Yeah, he does. What you gonna do now?
I'm gonna pick the mic up.
Okay.
Just like a light-skinned dude.
Yeah.
You
So
know what?
Maxwell on us.
One of the questions was about loneliness. I know what it's like to be in a crowd of people and be lonely. I know what it's like to be with somebody and be lonely. But I also know what it's like to be single and find yourself. The key is to find yourself, to fall in love with yourself. Because if you do, you hold the standard. You hold the standard of your happiness, and you don't depend on anybody else. My brother, here's the mic. Don't take it.
I gotta pick it up now after you said all
Okay.
that.
It's hot, brother.
Look here, I'm trying to look for some of those old school songs to go back to, about finding your personal happiness. I'm looking for some Earth, Wind, and Fire, and I can't remember any of it right now. But the real deal about this is just essentially digging deep down inside your soul and finding your happiness there, because that is where your real happiness lies. It lies within inside yourself. It's like when I was a little boy and I woke up in the morning time and I told my mom I couldn't wait to go to school, because when I went to school, that was a brand new world. Every day that we have is a brand new world. And this is the reason why this is so important to me, that brothers can get together and speak candidly about these things, because we are now in a brand new world.
Good stuff.
I don't want to talk about happiness. I want to end on this. As men, we can come together. As an Omega, one of the things that I learned was this: the value of our fraternity is not in numbers, but in men. 8 men thoroughly immersed in the true spirit of Omega is a far greater asset than 80 with lukewarm enthusiasm. And just as in men, if we find real men that are willing to come together and dispel all the fears, all the myth, all the crap that separate us, and come together and allow ourselves to be able to express the values, the core values that are necessary to be shown, we can overcome the issues, the circumstances, and the situations that divide us.
That's good.
Come in the huddle.
That's good.
In the huddle.
In the huddle.
In
You
the
just
huddle.
logged on at the last minute. That man down on the end, there's Johnny Magnificent
I
Matt.
am magnificent.
That
Hey.
is the commish, Ed Gray.
First of all, servants of all, we shall transcend all.
All right. That is the only Oscar Lightskin Hawkins right there. This is Benny making it, Mr. Make It Happen, Franklin, and I am Chris Howell. Ashley, if you'll turn that camera around on yourself. Ashley's been our camera operator for Facebook Live tonight. Ashley,
Thank you,
Ashley. Go, Ashley.
This is her fiance Justin sitting right next.
Hey, the chef.
Go, Justin. It's
Justin
your
is the chef, and
birthday.
he's been helping us cook up the conversation tonight.
Yes, yes, yes.
And then our camera operator on these 2 cameras right here. She's so bad.
Woohoo!
She's the one and only Nikki Gleeman.
Yeah.
And we're at the Dallas Renaissance Hotel. We'll be back here August 25th for our In the Huddle meeting.
August
It's happening 9 a.m. to
25th.
1 p.m. August 25th. Go to inthehuddle.info to get more information. Let us know what you think. Chime in, give us some conversation. Of course, we're all jumping on our phones right now just to try to see what it is you have to say about what it is we've done. Log on right now. Give us your feedback.
All right.
In the huddle.
In the huddle.
You boys are good. That boy good.